Hey, this is the World Advice Channel too. What I want to talk about today is a question of how to not have low self-esteem. So for this video, I will give you tips on how to avoid having self-esteem issues, which unlike specifically the worst form of low self-esteem where you literally believe you're less than other people, what I'm here to talk about is if you have self-esteem issues, which means you start questioning and wondering if you're as capable of doing things as everyone else, how you can of course overcome that particular um way of thinking about yourself, as well as of course if you have genuine low self-esteem, how you can recover and start feeling better about yourself. Okay, so now I mentioned that, let's get started. So when it comes to the first thing, when it comes to how to not have low self-esteem, is simply realizing that there are people who've done worse things than you. That's the first way to develop better self-esteem. Because the thing I have noticed about um I've noticed about the world in general, especially with this internet age we're living in, is that I have personally noticed that as one thing when it comes to understanding reality is that as long as you haven't done certain particular things, especially with the internet age, it's made it easier to realize there's a lot of people who do stupid things, is that you can always remember that you are not the world's biggest loser, or at least one of the 0.1% of people or whatnot, whatever, when it comes to being the world's so-called biggest loser. Because this is a thing that I have personally noticed about people who tend to have low self-esteem, okay? Is they always have this notion, particularly people who are young and so on and so forth, yada yada yada, that they are that the whole world is smarter or more capable than they are, and so on and so forth, when it comes to whether it can be making friends or what they can achieve and so on and so forth. They have this notion that the whole world, if not the vast majority of the world, is better than them. Or more specifically, for the type of low self-esteem people I'm referring to, the ones who have self-esteem related issues, the ones who question that, specifically the ones like I was saying before, those type of people, they wonder, is everyone else in the world better than what I am at what I have to do, and so on and so forth. Those type of people, the ones who are questioning themselves and their abilities and stuff, those type of people for that matter, I've always noticed that they always have that way of thinking. It's the whole world, like the majority of the world is better at them than everything, and so on and so forth. Okay, in some way, shape, or form. Okay, but a true, and there's things that they do that most people wouldn't do, and so on and so forth. But the best way to debunk it is simply realizing that that can be further from the truth. Because one thing I've realized, is that as long as you're following a basic protocol of life, like for example, when you're walking across the street, are you actually, for example, actually paying attention to what's going on around you? Do you always, when you leave the house, always make sure that you lock the door to the house? Are you someone who, for example, whenever you actually have valuables, you make sure that you put it in your pocket and so on and so forth, and for that matter, you always leave it in your pocket? Then, or it could even just be down to things. Are you someone who also hasn't done certain particular things, for that matter, that are really, really, really stupid, for that matter, which, oh boy, there's a bunch, what I'll get to more later. Because the truth of the matter is, if you haven't done those things, for that matter, then you are not the world's biggest loser, okay? Especially with the example I gave about safety, and security protocols, basic safety and security protocols, like not walking across the street, not being someone who, of course, leaves their belongings out in public. The thing I have will say is that you will be amazed at the amount of people who actually do those things, okay? And that is one of the best ways to develop a better feeling about yourself, is realizing how many people, so-called normal everyday people, do stupid shit. That's one thing I have realized about life, okay? So many people in the world do dumb stuff. Most people actually do dumb stuff on a regular everyday basis, particularly the youth of this generation. We live in a world where you will literally have someone walking on the street while there's traffic literally there, and they're looking on their smartphone. How dumb can you be? And they're not even like they're just looking glimpsing. They're looking at it as they're walking. Okay? That's the world we live in. So if we live in a world like that, how can you really, if you're not doing that, feel that you're less than those people? Because safety, of course, and basic security as well are the most important things that, of course, are needed to make sure someone, of course, actually doesn't is doing well in life. And if someone's willing to take a risk for that, then that shows their level of intelligence, journalism, for that matter. So, truth of the matter is, that's one of the biggest ways to debunk it. And back to the point I also wanted to get across here as well, which I was getting at before, of course, when it comes to stupidity, is that just look at the world we live in. Okay, there's so many people do stupid shit all the time. Look at all the stories you look at when you go on the internet, whether it could be things like, for example, somebody who, for example, shot himself because he wanted to know how it felt like. Okay, or it could be someone who, for example, gave their personal location to make sure no one stole their belongings, someone stole stuff from them, or just things like that, for that matter. There's so many people in the world who do stupid shit. I can guarantee you, if you're someone who has self-esteem issues, at least that form of low self-esteem, if anything, I can guarantee you, all of you would never do anything that stupid, because you guys are very critical of yourself. And the fact that you're critical of yourself means you think a lot and you plan things out well. Okay? When it comes to making sure that you're safe and so on and so forth. Okay? So, if you're that type of person, you're not going to be doing something that stupid. Who the hell in God's name would, for that matter, in general, regardless of if they have low self esteem or not? That's the truth of the matter. So, what the hell would anyone in the world do anything that freaking stupid, for that matter? But even then, so many people will do that. So what my point here, for this main first point at least, is that look, compare yourself to other people, and just realize, if you see people do things that are stupid that you would never do, then keep that in mind and remind yourself, I would never do that stuff. Whenever you get the thought in your head that you're less than other people. Okay, so that's the first point. The second point, of course, particularly pertaining to the society we live in the world, is simply realizing that most people in the world are, is to become good at something, which of course relates highly to self esteem and stuff, for whatever you want to do. Whether it could be, maybe you want to be an architect, you know, you want to be a rocket engineer, a rocket scientist, you want to be maybe someone who makes music, whatever you want it to be, yada 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 yada, whatever you want it to be, for that matter. The truth of the matter is, when it comes to that particular situation, all you need to do to become good at something is focus on becoming good at one specific particular thing. Okay, because this is the biggest problem I have personally noticed with the world. Okay, in general, is that when it comes to why everyone sucks at everything, is that everyone sucks at everything because we live in a multi-skill obsessed society. People do this, people do that, people do this, people do that, and they wonder why they're seeing mediocre results for everything, if not no results at all. And that's the truth of the matter when it comes to this world. Okay, if you want to become actually good at something, you have to analyze. You have to put your effort into one specific thing, because the more you put that effort on one specific thing, you'll see better results, because you obviously have more time to put into it, and through more time you have more time to learn, and you have more time to practice, so you become as best as you can become at that one thing. Okay, because that's the second biggest truth about this world I've noticed, and why everyone is so insecure. Because we live in a world where people want to become good at this particular thing. Oh, I want to have a bunch of friends, but I also want to be doing academically very well. I want to also become really good at video games. I also want to become really good at, for example, something that doesn't even fucking matter. Like, oh, I want to dress the best or something like that. Whatever. These are multiple different skills, and to become good at one particular thing takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to become good at even one particular thing. Well, how am I going to become really good at multiple different things? And that's the truth about the world, and why people are so freaking insecure. It's not even funny, for that matter. So if you don't want to be an insecure person, you remember to focus on one particular skill you want to become good at. Okay, and when it comes to directly relating to become good at a particular skill, of course, like, like I was in the ones I mentioned before, architecture and so on and so forth, the ones I mentioned before, then put your effort in becoming good at one particular skill, okay? And what, trust me, you will do amazing. And that's the second point. And the last point to mention as well is simply keep these points in mind in your head, okay? As you do it, because a lot of people in this world know these things, but they forget them because they're not keeping track of reminding themselves about these points. So also keep these points that I mentioned here in your head, particularly the first point, because that's also something you have to keep in your head pertaining to of course, comparing yourself to others. That is something that is very important, because as long as you're not doing the things that they're doing, I can guarantee you, no matter how low you feel, and you remind yourself, oh, I know that person, I would never do something as dumb as that person, then you're not going to feel like shit. And that's the truth of the matter. So anyway, this is my video. All I have to say to end this off is that I hope you found it entertaining as well as informative. And just remember, to also thumbs this video up and hit the subscribe button if you like this video and videos like this. And this is all I have to say. So be put, I'm out. So bye.